Hello and welcome to ZerotoMBB, your one-stop interview preparation resource that gets you in Mckinsey, BCG, and Bain. And today, part one of a six-part series of preparing for case interviews. Part one, the basic, getting a grip on the case. Let's start with the methodology, which is a simple three-step process. First step, synthesize the case. Second step, repeat the case objective and try to quantify. And third step is to ask if there are any other objectives. On the first step, remember to synthesize and not only repeat. Ask any clarifying questions if you haven't heard something properly or if you're not familiar with the business. On the case objective, well, you should try to ask questions to try to quantify targets, timelines, and write down the objectives in big letters on a separate sheet of paper so that you have it in front of you at all times. Don't forget to ask if there are any other objectives, constraints usually that you should take into account in solving the case, and write that down as well. Let's start with our example of Fit City, a gym located in London city centre, which have been operating for the last 10 years. They offer a large self-service gym with very diverse pieces of equipment, and for each kind of equipment they have several stations to minimize the waiting time. Equipment ranges from treadmills, ellipticals, stationary bicycles, rowing machines, and all the standard and more eclectic weightlifting machines, as well as bars, free weights, etc. There is also a small mat area for groundwork and stretching. Fit City has been very successful for the first 8 years, but now see its number of members lowering despite having renewed their equipment recently and having maintained prices constant. CityFit has hired you to turn the situation around, that is to regrow the numbers of members. And so that's typically what the consultants will tell you, and you'll have to take notes on this. So let's try to work that example out following the three steps from the methodology. And the first step was to synthesize the case and ask any clarifying questions. So if we synthesize the case, we might say that Fit City is a city center gym, mostly focused on self-service, cardio, and weight training, that they own many pieces of equipment, all mostly new, and that membership prices haven't changed in the last few years. However, they have seen their numbers of members decrease. And so to clarify the case and ask questions, one might think about asking about whether it's true that Fit City is only offering self-service and no classes at all, or ask about the demographics of Fit City's current members. And the interviewer might respond or not, depending on the question. In this case, let's say that he responds that indeed they don't offer any classes, but that he doesn't want to get into the demographics too much. So let's go into now the second step, which is to repeat the main objective and to try to quantify it. So as an interviewee, you could say, okay, so the objective here is to grow the number of members. But do we have the number of current members and the number of members that we want to have as a target? And the interviewer might respond, yes, we currently have 1,000 members and we want to move to 1,500 members. Okay, great, that's valuable information. We might also ask about timelines and see whether we want to achieve this objective within a constrained time. So we might start to the interviewer who might respond that Fit City is currently in a very bad financial situation, and so they need to turn around the situation very quickly, that is within 1 year. Okay, great. So let's now move to the third step, which is to ask if there are any other objectives. Just simply ask, are there any other objectives? And the interviewer might say, well, just remember that Fit City's financial situation doesn't allow for much investment, and so we should spend a limited amount on marketing. Okay, so once you have all this information, you should write it down in big characters in a separate on separate piece of paper and keep it inside at all times during the case. And so one might write, how do we grow FitCity's member base from 1,000 to 1,500 members in 1 year with limited marketing budget? And so that's it for getting a grip on the case. So simple. Feel free to look up our other videos of our 6-part series on preparing and nailing the case interview.